Welcome to the Solo Promoter YouTube channel. My name is Grant, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you here today watching this video. Thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and thank you to all our Patreon patrons who help make the videos on this channel possible. Well, I've got something fun to talk about on today's Promoter Toolbox, and this is something, it is a very useful tool that I have used in the past, and I may use again in the future. I've kind of gotten away from it a little bit, but it is a very helpful tool because when we are booking our matches, when we are having our cards, sometimes we just get stuck and we're just like, oh, there was a disqualification here. Why was there a disqualification? Oh, this person did something, but why? I just paired up two random guys. Why did this one guy attack the other guy after the bell? What's the reasoning behind it? And, just to have a little bit more fun with your storylines, this is a great tool. Back in April of 2019, on the official Filsinger Games message board, there was a user named Smathis. And I think Smathis is still on the boards, but Smathis did this great post about using the Mythic Game Master emulator to help them book things in their Fed. So to create random events during a card, pay-per-view, or TV taping. So what is Mythic? Well, Mythic is a system, and it's basically just a system of charts that you can use to, what it was built for was to be able to play role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or like the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game on this very channel that I play, by yourself, solo. Because usually those games, you need a dungeon master or a game master. And if you are like me and have no friends and just sit at home by yourself all the time and want to play these games, you need something to emulate the dungeon master. And that's what Mythic does. Now, what I will say is, when Smathis wrote this in 2009, he was, and this is an amazing post. I'll have it linked down below so you can go read it. It's one of my favorite posts on the message boards. He was writing about the first edition of Mythic. Now, I am filming this on January 25th, 2023. Happy birthday, Honky Tonk Man. And a new edition, the second edition of Mythic, just came out a couple weeks ago in January. So while these are very, very similar, there are a little difference between first edition and second edition. The good news is, if you read through this and you like it, first edition is still available, and you can buy first edition, or you can get second edition, like I did, which gives you even more things to talk about. So let's get into how this works. Mythic works on a chaos factor, and you can see, ignore this top part of the chart here. You can just see down here it says chaos factor, and then it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? So, and 1 means it's the status quo. There's no chaos. Everything is going according to plan. In fact, it might even be a little bit boring because it's going so according to plan. Then, as the chaos factor rises, things get more and more crazy until you get to 9, when the earth cracks open and the wrestling arena falls into the middle of that's what would be a 9 event, right? Like there's all of a sudden the Mid-South Coliseum collapses. That would be totally crazy. So we're generally going to live down here in this area right here. Again, ignore this top part because this is more for the role-playing games. You could use this, but we're not going to talk about this much today. So here's what you do. You set up your card. You have a series of matches. You're going to say, this person's going to fight this person's going to fight this person, so on. And you're going to start the chaos factor as 1, because those scenes, matches, we're going to call matches scenes, those scenes are happening, when the chaos factor is 1, that scene is happening the way it should be happening. What we're going to do is, as the matches go on, as the card goes on, we will raise this chaos factor. So after the first match, if nothing weird or crazy happened, we move it up to 2. And then we move it up to 3. And then as we get closer to the main event, we're probably going to get around 5 or 6, right? Now, if you have a ton of cards on here, I'm going to show you a little trick what you can do. This is something that Smathis recommended. So if there's no weird random event before this first match, move it up to 2. If there's no weird random event happening here, move it up to 3. Now, how do we find out these events? Well, we do that by testing the expected scene. Roll 1d10 and compare it to the chaos factor. So we've got our chaos factor, it's a 1. We've got a d10 die here. You will need a few extra die to do this, more than just the classic red and blue. We got a 6. So the chaos factor is 1. And we rolled over the chaos factor. So the expected scene happens. The first match happens. There's no problems. Nothing happens. After that match is over, we raise the chaos factor to 2. And then we roll before that match. We rolled a 2. All right. So that is within the chaos factor. So since we rolled 2, that becomes an interrupt scene. Something happens before that second match that may interrupt that match and may make that match not happen, okay? And so once you get that, you get a result like that, and that is an interrupt scene. We'll talk about altered scenes in a second. The next thing you do is you roll on your random focus table. Something random happened. Now we have to find out who did it happen to? And this random event focus table will help us do that. Now, in this post by Smathis does a fantastic job of breaking down each one of these things as to how they use it in their Fed. And I will say that this is a little bit where it differentiates, because current context is a new thing in second edition, and so current context isn't on here. But once you read through this and once you start learning it, you can figure out what current context means. So we have an interrupted scene. Something happened before the second match, and we need to find out who did it happen to or where did it happen. So the way we do that is we roll on the random event focus table. And so we're going to roll here, and now I have a tens die and a singles die. You could also just get a 100-sided die, and we get 23. So 23 is an NPC action. That stands for non-player character action. Now, what I love that Smathis did was Smathis says he uses, because you'll see on this chart there's NPC and there's PC. He uses NPC as the heels and PC as the faces. So we've got NPC action, and Smathis breaks it down right here. This would be something that the heel set up for the match, or maybe did backstage before the match, maybe setting up a run-in or having a bag of thumbtacks underneath the ring apron. So this would affect the match. So I love that idea of maybe setting up a run-in. So the heel said, listen, I'm going to go out there for this match, but if at any point I'm in trouble, you three guys come down there, and then you would roll on the gang interference chart. So that would be a way to do that. Now, I want to back up really quick and talk about this. That would be an interrupt scene, because those gang of guys, wrestlers running in there, might invalidate the match, right? The match might not happen as expected. The other thing on here is an altered scene. So something happens in the match that alters the match. And there's a great, again, you gotta read this post by Smathis, because it does a much better job explaining it than I do. The Fabulous Kangaroos are facing off against the Flying Redheads. I rolled an alteration event under the chaos factor, and then I roll on the event meaning chart. We'll get to the event meaning chart in the thing in a second. And he gets struggle, travel for the subject. I ponder, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. I ponder what this means. It's only an alteration, so I know that the match will still takes place. This match still takes place. This just mixes things up. So I come up with the interpretation that the Flying Redheads will be attacked by the Kangaroos while en route to the ring. So the Kangaroos choose who starts out in the ring and start the match on level 2 offense. So when you roll on this chart and you get something like NPC action, that's the heel action, you can come up with what that is. What did the heel do before the match that might interrupt the match? Goes and attacks the other wrestler's family member who's in the front row. I don't know what it is. But you can come up with that. But if you don't want to come up with that, if you want a little help coming up with that, Well, we've got these amazing charts here. We've got an action table and a description table. And this is what Smathis was talking about, where he said he rolled on the event chart and got struggle and travel. So, excuse me. So you've got these charts here. You don't have these look intimidating, but you can mix and match these. You don't have to use one. So we're going to roll on descriptor 1 and action 1. So we're going back to that same result we got. That is NPC action, the heal, and we'll use these two characters, and then we'll say, I mean, both of these guys are we'll say that Rick Rude was the heel. So before the match, Rick Rude did something, but I just can't think of what Rick Rude would do. So I'm going to roll on the action table, and then I'm going to roll on the description table. And there's two tables here. You can roll on either one. Again, you can mix or match. So let's see. What did Rick Rude do? We've got 66, which is mechanically. He did something mechanically. And then we've got 60. And so we go to the action table. 60. Lure, mechanically lure. And so we know that this is an interrupt event. This is something that interrupted the event. What if mechanically lure? I'm going to say that Rick Rude lured Mosca into the boiler room, mechanical. He lured him into the mechanical and attacked him in the boiler room before the match. And so the match could either be completely interrupted, or Rick Rude could start the match on level 2 offense. Kind of the same thing as to what happened here. If we were to roll again on the match, this time we'll roll on action table 2, 43, illness, 43, and 47. So illness. Important illness. Rick Rude slips. He wouldn't poison him to kill him, but he pours X-Lax into Angelo Mosca's food, or his protein shake, before the match. And it causes a problem. That's like an absurd example, but you can use these to kind of help you. And here's the thing. This is the great thing about Mythic. If you don't like that, it's illness, whatever the other roll was, you can roll again, or you can just come up with something yourself. And so this is a lot of fun. And what Smathis would say, what Smathis said in his original post here was, if a random event didn't occur before this match, just keep moving this up until a random event occurs, and then you can drop it back down to 1 and then start raising it again. So, because once you get up here, you're going to have a random event before every match if you don't drop this down. Now, the way that the other way you could do it that I was thinking about trying is to raise this every time there's a disqualification. So it just makes for a wild, wild night if you don't have any disqualifications and the chaos factor stays at 1 and nothing random happens. Maybe you have a bunch of disqualifications, and then by the end of the evening, there's just mayhem. The other thing I love about that's a really simple overview of Mythic. You can really get into the weeds on this and really dive deep. But if you go read this post, and hopefully this video will help visualize things a little bit for you, it's really great. The other thing that I wanted to point out is, and sometimes, I will say this, when I was using these charts, I was not even using the chaos factor. I just would ignore the chaos factor. And if something weird happened, if a match ended in disqualification, I would roll on these action and descriptor tables to kind of help me figure out what it is. And I wouldn't deal with the event focus. I wouldn't deal with the chaos factor. I would just use these charts because I thought these were great jumping off points. But the other amazing thing about second edition of Mythic is they just put out a ton of charts. And most of these are for RPGs. So adventure tone, alien species descriptor. You could have a conquering primitive alien, animal actions, all this stuff. Like these are, as I said, these are more for Dungeons and Dragons. But there is one on here that I really, really loved, and that's character motivations, right? So Angelo Mosca gets disqualified for brawling against Rick Rude during a match. But why? Why? This is the first time these two have met. Why is Angelo Mosca doing this? Well, we can roll on the character motivations, and we get 62 misfortune. So maybe they were playing cards last night, and Angelo Mosca lost all his money, and he's mad at Rick Rude because he thinks Rick Rude cheated during the thing. That's just one interpretation. You can do this as many as you want. You can also roll multiple times. So misfortune is our first one. The second one is 41. Misfortune at home. Okay, let's see, Angelo Mosca's from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The night before this match, there was a horrible snowstorm, and his family, Angelo Mosca's family, is locked inside their house. They're all snowed in, and he just wants to get home to them, but he knows he has to wrestle. He can't travel there. So there is misfortune at home, and it's nothing personal against Rick Rude, but he is going to kick the crap out of Rick Rude, and he doesn't care about getting disqualified. There are character identity, character personality charts, character skills, characters' traits and flaws. Oh my gosh. And there's like tons and tons of these charts. Now, as I said, a lot of them are for, starship descriptors. You're probably not going to use that, but you might use that if you play Champions of the Galaxy, because all this stuff would work for Champions of the Galaxy. There's a plot twist table. What's the plot twist that happens during Angelo Mosca and Rick Rude's match? We got a 57, necessary, 76, necessary, rare. Necessary rare. Rick Rude stole Angelo Mosca's wrestling boots that his father gave him. And he needs those. So maybe he's wrestling this barefoot. So you would, add one level to any move that affects the feet. I don't know what you would do, but this is how you would use these charts. I think it's a lot of fun. It's great to help if you're stuck, because sometimes you're playing, and as I said, I don't use these a lot for wrestling game. I do every once in a while if I'm just like, why? Like a lot of times, and this happens in Champions of the Galaxy, in the women's division. I guess this would happen in the women's division here. It's there's so few women characters. You find yourself having the same matches over and over again. It's like, oh my gosh, how many times can Trish Stratus wrestle Fabulous Moolah? Or how many times can Hyla wrestle Crawla in a year? Using this focus, these tables might give you some idea of why they keep wrestling so much. So anyway, check out this thread. I will also have a link to the Mythic Game Master emulator that is in the in drive-through. There's right now it's just a PDF, so you kind of have to print it out yourself. But they're getting the books printed. They also have, now this is first edition, this Game Master emulator deck. So what this deck will do is you can just draw 2 cards at random, and they have event descriptors down here, enormously simple, or quaintly familiar. I don't know how you would use those in wrestling, but you could. They also have the NPC negative, introduce a new NPC. They also have all of those event focus up here as well. And, then they have the action and the subject chart, gratify weapons. So, Rick Rude brings a kendo stick to the ring. I don't know. So anyway, check out the Mythic Symptom. Even if you don't do the whole chaos factor, all this other stuff, these charts are so great. and can, especially when I saw this character motivation chart, I go, I may start using this a lot in my wrestling feds because it's just a lot of fun. Anyway, huge shout out to Smathis for what I think is one of the most valuable posts ever posted on the message boards. And again, I will link to this. And Smathis, just if you're watching this, thank you so much, because Mythic has really opened up a lot of stuff for me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love to know. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Big shout out to our patrons. If you would like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media. And thank you for your support. Bye, everybody.